As we make our own clothes, I think we always strive to have them look really professional and not so much homemade. So in this video, let's talk about the top 5 sewing mistakes that we make as beginner sewers that make our clothes look homemade. And better yet, of course, how you can make them look even more professional than that. Welcome my new sewing friends, and yes, we do actually have lots of new sewing friends with us currently, so welcome everyone. If I would suggest that you have a little check down below to see if you are in fact subscribed. Sometimes YouTube shows you all the videos you love, but you haven't actually subscribed yet, so go ahead and do that if you haven't already. Welcome, because around here what we do is everything helping improve your sewing and make your sewing look better so you can have these garments that people look at and think, wow, I can't believe that you made that. I think that's what we all strive for, and we talk about that a lot with my members of Vintage Sewing School. And so I think what we're always aiming for is to have professional looking garments. And let's look at the same sort of mistakes that we make as beginners that actually don't achieve that. Now let me clarify 2 things first. First of all, let me clarify the term mistakes used in the title. No, these are not really mistakes as such. I don't think there ever is such a thing as a mistake. It made obviously a really great title, and you could understand what I meant right away from that title. But I don't want you to think of these as mistakes. It's just things that we all do when we're learning, because we're learning. We don't know any different at the time. So do not think of them as mistakes, but just there are things that we do that are learning opportunities to keep getting better and better so you can get those garments that you're striving for. Let me clarify homemade versus handmade. So this is at least how I clarify, and the different terms that how I think about it. Homemade, I think, implies more like maybe you have a sewing machine and you kind of know how to use it, something that you made at home. Handmade, I think, implies that something has been handcrafted, crafted with skill and executed really professionally. So you have a handcrafted, professional looking garment. And I think that is what we all strive for in our garments to look like, is handmade, not homemade. So I just wanted to clarify those 2 different terms there, so we're all on the same page. And luckily, we all make the same kinds of mistakes, not really mistakes, as we're beginning. I remember I did so many of these, and it's just about learning through, because eventually once you get past them and you know what to look for, you know what to do to start making your garments look more professional. So what's the first one? Top stitching instead of understitching. This one is a huge one. I remember I used to do this all the time. So what do I mean? So for example, over let's say a neckline edge where you have a facing and you just can't for the life of you get that facing to sit down flat, to sit nice, neat. It's just like mission impossible. And so the only thing that makes sense in your mind at that point is to get all the layers together, facing, garment, everything, and just stitch it down along the neckline at the top, because that's the only thing that possibly could work. So that is top stitching, and I see this quite a lot. I used to do it myself, as I said. What you want to be doing is understitching. Now, I have made a video about this in the past and you all really loved it because it is an eye-opening video. I will link that down below for you to watch after this one. So this is the kind of stitch that you want to do. When you look closely at all the clothes in your wardrobe, you'll notice that none of them really have, I mean some will, but mostly not. They will not have a top stitch around a neckline holding a facing in tow. That's just not what they're commonly used, and therefore makes your garments look homemade. What you'll find is all of this understitching. When you look really close, you will find it. So you want to do understitching rather than top stitching where appropriate, because it will just really elevate your garments and make them look so much more professional. Not pressing. I know you know what I'm talking about already. I have made videos here about it's the #1 way you can make your garments look instantly better without having to get better at sewing is pressing. When we don't press our garments, it is the absolute surefire way to have them looking homemade. So what you want to do is follow the golden rule. The golden rule is that you sew a seam, you finish it, so finish your raw edges, and then you press it. And then you move on to the next step. That is the golden rule. And so when you press as you go in the construction process along the way, by the time you get to the end, your garment's almost pressed, it looks amazing. honestly, it will look at least 100% better if you have pressed it than you would if you didn't. And so you can instantly get a garment that looks 100% better just by pressing. You didn't even have to get better at sewing. I know, it's like magic. Pressing is like magic in sewing, so don't skip it ever. The more you press, the better your garments will look without even having to get better at sewing. As I said, machine stitching over hand finishing. I think this is one that comes up for us as we progress a little bit through our journey. Definitely that was the case for me. What do I mean by this, I guess, first? So using your sewing machine for basically everything, rather than stopping and doing some beautiful, neat hand finishes that are maybe more invisible to give a more professional look. So things like maybe you could hand catch down your facing instead of top stitching it down, or instead of machine stitching it around. Maybe you have a bias facing, and instead of machine stitching it down, you could hand finish that so it's invisible finish. On a hem, for example, instead of just machining a hem and having the machine stitch visible around the hem, you could do a nice neat hand finish that is invisible. And it's these types of finishes that really elevate your garments and will make them look so much more professional and even couture looking, because those are the finishes that are used. So definitely have a look at what hand finishings can you do over machine stitching everything. Seam finishes. This one I think we all learn the very hard way. So I have made videos on different types of seam finishes, and so definitely watch that one for the different types. And it's not even about the type of finish that we use. Here's the scenario. So when you first start sewing, pretty much we all maybe don't even finish our seams, our raw edges, because what does that even mean? Why would you even need to do that, right? And of course it turns into a disaster quite a way, and the insides look like dog's breakfast, don't even know, and of course it starts fraying away in the wash. We've all done this before. And then you do start using seam finishes, and you use maybe a zigzag stitch or something like this that you've got at your disposal, but it's usually when you first start very messy. And when you don't pay particular attention to your seam finishes, the insides can look very, very messy, and it is a surefire way that it's a homemade garment, rather than, if we're aiming for handmade, beautiful, professional, handcrafted garment, paying particular attention to the insides as well as the outside really brings that oh so nice feeling to your garment and makes such a big difference. So definitely invest some time in looking at different seam finishes and spending time on doing nice, neat finishes, because trust me, when you're finished with your garment and it looks beautiful on the inside just as it does on the outside, there is no better feeling. I feel so satisfied when I have that. Using the wrong interfacing or no interfacing at all. Yes, I definitely learnt this one the hard way. And again, I think this is, tell me if I'm right, is this how it goes? On your first time, you might have a facing piece and you see this term interfacing and you think, I don't know what that is. I'm going to leave that out because I don't have any anyway. And so you do, and of course you realize very soon that it looks terrible. Nothing fits, it wasn't work, the end garment just looks terrible. It just looks like this homemade garment that I know I was disappointed in when I did it the first time. And then you do the opposite, of course, and you end up getting this interfacing that looks like cardboard and looks just as terrible on your end garment. It's things like interfacing is a big one. I think that it does take time to get to know and learn, but it's definitely worth investing the time to learn and experiment. You really only learn by experimenting yourself. That's how I learned what is a good interfacing for what fabrics and where it needs to be applied. A good interfacing should look seamless. You shouldn't even know that it's on your garment. Should be completely seamless. So you won't know it's there, but you will in a way that it gives support and structure to your garments around the areas that it needs, like necklines, for example, cuffs, collars. You have to have the interfacing in there, but it should be in a way that it just looks seamless. That's how you know you've got the right one. So that's definitely one thing that elevates your garments and really makes them look really professional, and something that you can be, you'll look back and think that looks so good. Because I think we all strive for that moment when someone likes your outfit and they comment, I like your outfit, and then you say, thank you, I made it myself. beaming with smiles because you're so proud of your creation, because you know it looks really, really good. I think that's what we all aim for in our sewing, is just that moment when you say, thank you, I made it myself. And so by working on these types of things is how I eventually got my garments to a stage where I was really proud and they thought they looked really professional. And that's how I know that you can work through those things too, to get better looking results, because I know that's what you're aiming for in your garments as well. Let me know, my friends, is there anything else we need to add to this list? Leave your comments down below. Sharing all of our sewing information is how we all get better at sewing. Or maybe which one of these are you going to work on now? Let me know. Do check the description box below, because I have left a bunch of different videos that I think will really help you out and help you along in your sewing. Until next time, my friends, happy sewing. Bye.